Hello everybody, welcome to the second episode. If you don't know, now you know. Today we're going to get to know Jeff, how do you pronounce your last name by the way?
James.
Jeff Jaimes, I figured, I had like the I in there is confusing. But guys, I've known Jeff maybe for, not personally, maybe I've seen him around. We trained several times at different schools, different the gyms, Tempest Free Running Academies for the last maybe 2-3 years. I've been on and off of my training, but he's been pretty consistent. So I just wanted to go ahead and make sure that we can get Jeff's story out there. I've been following him on Facebook for some time now, and he's the way he lives his life, it has a lot to say about who he is and kind of things, you know, his passion. And he's a Traceur, and that's a practitioner of parkour for a lot of you who don't know what that is. And he's been, how long have you been training for parkour now?
About 4 years now.
4 years. And how old are you now, if you might ask?
I'm 26.
26, so since you're 22 you were training.
Yeah.
That's insane. How did you find out about parkour?
I found out through my roommate. He was working at UPS at the time, and I guess one of his friends showed him a video. It was the Tempest Lights video.
Okay.
And he came home and he was like, "Hey man, you need to check this out. It's probably one of the coolest things I've seen. It's got your name all over it," and it really hit home. So I watched the video and it's like, this is what I want to do. There wasn't any question about it.
Right.
I saw it, and I've always wanted to be a ninja growing up. And I saw those guys moving like that, and I was like, I want to learn how to do that. And I just kind of went and tried it out.
Had you ever seen anything like that before that video?
You know, I saw movements like that. I mean, like all of us have seen Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
You know, and ever since I've seen Jackie Chan as a kid, I was always like, that guy is amazing. You know, and he, without us knowing, has done parkour movements in those videos, like in all those movies. So things like that, but nothing really that was labeled parkour. I think probably the first time I saw it outside of the gym or in an actual video was probably Casino Royale, I want to say, with Sebastian Foucan. That's right. Yeah, and he was doing that whole huge opening scene. That was the first time. I think I was in training by then either too. So that was probably one of my first experiences outside of like an actual video or Tempest, anything like that.
That's cool, man. And have you had ever any background before you got started in parkour? You were jumping off of things already? How most of us start off, right?
Yeah, well, I guess most of us as kids were pretty active, you know, where we don't have a lot of fear. We climb monkey bars, you know, without the fear of falling down. I mean, some of us have it, but most of us just climb and we just do things that we wouldn't think would be super detrimental to our health.
Right.
But I played a bunch of sports growing up. I played basketball, I played football, and I was never really good at them. Okay. And in fact, I wasn't very athletic. It took a long time to even be somewhat efficient in parkour. I still got a long way to go, but I never really practiced anything like that before training, so it took a while to get the oils on the hinges. Yeah, definitely. I know that
back in high school for myself, the only thing I ever participated in as far as sports was track and cross country. Sure. And I was probably 16, 17 years old when I found out about parkour. I'm 23 now, and I've been on and off with it. But for all the viewers, so there's a lot of people who do know what parkour is, but why don't you go ahead and explain what parkour means to you? And I give the general definition of what most people say it is.
I mean, this is what I tell my students where I work. Parkour is like a form of discipline. It's a form kind of like martial arts. You know, it's not necessarily used to be better than someone else. It's not meant to run away from cops. It's not meant to do things like that. It derives from, a French firefighter who wanted to save lives. So he developed movements that got from point A to point B as efficiently as possible, as well as being able to push his own limits in his way. Each person has different height, different age, different weight, and different arm length and leg length. So it's really how you can push yourself in your environment and make your body stronger.
Okay, that's good. That's a great description. He's a teacher, guys, and now that we're talking about you being a coach, where is it that you coach and how long have you been doing that?
It's pretty recent actually. I coach in the city of Covina, California. Okay. I'm a gymnastics and parkour coach. Well, we actually call it urban acrobatics due to legal issues.
Okay.
So it's called urban acrobatics. I'm an urban acrobatics coach, but you know, we teach the same movements, and we also sprinkle a little bit of gymnastics in there as well, and some other acrobatics like tumbling and things like that. And I've been doing it since, I want to say I got hired in March of this year, so
Okay, very recent.
not too long.
Okay,
Not
cool.
too long, yeah.
And how has coaching helped you grow as someone you're teaching, now you're taking what you love and now you're putting it, you're pouring it back to people?
Well, one, there's always that positive reinforcement of seeing, you know, a student who's been working on something for so long, and you finally, you give them a tip here, you give them a tip there, and all of a sudden, something you say clicks in their head. You know, I don't know if you've had that moment, you know, with someone coaching you, and you do something and you realize you are capable of that.
Yeah.
And you can see it in their face how happy they get. That's super rewarding. But as far as what I learned, you know, where I work, the owner's wife happened to be an Olympian back in the Moscow Games before, you know, the Cold War closed all that stuff down.
Yeah.
And so she's an amazing coach, and her son has been coaching for 25 something years.
Jeez.
And his dad is also really amazing. Pretty much I'm surrounded by fantastic coaches, but you probably know as well, gymnastics it's similar to parkour in the sense where you have to have a lot of body control.
Absolutely.
You have to have, you know, good air awareness. You have to have good fundamentals, and all these things, they play into account in just basic human movements. You know, running, jumping, pulling, pushing, crawling, swinging. All these things are all kind of universal. So being around coaches who teach at that level, you can kind of pick apart things that you can use into your training. So for example, I see the girls swing on all the bars all the time, and my bar work isn't great, but it's been recently improving due to, you know, watching these athletes coach and watching my coach, my higher up coaches coach them. Is, you know, there's something called a tap swing where you have to hollow your hips and make sure your hips are back and your feet are in front of you, and as you swing you kind of tap through it. Well,
Okay.
I used that technique actually last week doing a challenge at Tempest, and I was able to complete it, but I've never been able to do it. Or a kip up, a gymnastics kip up. I was never able to do a muscle up, but somehow teaching this movement to other students, because they give you the instructions, you know, glide swing, toast to bar, get your hips up, bring your arms down,
Wow.
all that
By the
stuff.
way, guys, he has been improving. I've been watching him. We've trained together. I'm telling you, the things I've seen him do now, it's a matter of just sticking to it and constantly trying to break
Appreciate
those
it.
barriers. Absolutely.
Yeah. So things like that, they translate into my training. So not only is it rewarding teaching the kids, but I'm getting able to get insight on movements that I didn't have insight before, especially from people who've been doing it for 20-something years.
Right. That's interesting, dude. That's so. You said you only had a background in, and you played basketball. You said.
I played basketball. I played football. I did even a little bit of track.
Okay,
You know,
cool.
Yeah.
Isn't it fun? We all I think we all had. We run and then we learn to climb, and that's what some people mold that into parkour.
Absolutely. You know, I've been hiking pretty much my whole life. My dad's been taking me to Griffith Park.
Yeah.
Since I could walk. He said, you know, he would hold my hand and, you know, take me up to Griffith Park. So movement has always been in my life. It's always been there. It's something I definitely I know I loved. You know, I did sports, actually snowboarding, you know, about 2 years ago, I want to say. You know, when there was
when there was
snow. Now, I mean, like, look at this drought. It's terrible, but
Giant match.
yeah, no kidding. So I've done a bunch of recreational sports, but nothing really. You know, downhill skateboarding. You know, big
Oh,
long
that's fun.
boards, and,
Yeah.
and we'd go up to the Burbank Hills, and my buddy would drive me up the hill. I would skate down. He would drive behind me. I would take turns. I would drive him up, and
Cool.
vice versa. But nothing ever really hit home the way parkour and free running did. There's something about it that gives me fulfillment, and so I continue to chase it.
You know, it's funny that you say that there's something about it. It's kind of hard for us to explain these like full passion. I don't know if you've ever heard of Simon Sinek. I read his book recently, Start With Why. I read a lot. And in Start With Why, he talks about why we do something and how and what we do it are in two different parts of the brain. How and what are things that are very easy to explain. What do you do with a Kong? Well, this is how you do it and all that stuff, right? Or a precision jump. But why we do things like your passion, my passion in parkour, it can't be explained. And the great example he gave was being in love with somebody. You say you love someone, right? And someone asks you, hey, why do you love that person, or why did you marry that person? And we kind of want to, our natural thing to do is to rationalize it and say that it's because, oh, this person completes me, or she's funny, or he's attractive, or whatever it is.
Sure.
But there's plenty of other funny girls out there and other attractive guys out there, you know? So why do you love this one person? You can't explain it. And then at the end of it, we just say, you know what, it just feels right. And when we say it just feels right, there's something about it. That's that thing that most people can't find most times in their life. You know, twice our age, people still haven't found their true passion or their true calling, or to be able to find something where they say it just feels right.
Yeah.
For you, I mean, we're young. We got so much. I'm sure you want to accomplish, so much more in the sport that you want to accomplish in the art. Me, in a lot of different areas as well. What is it? What's your ultimate goal with, I guess, your coaching or your passion for the art?
I would probably say, you know, I've thought about this for a long time, because it's not something I want to give up necessarily. You know, I'm 26. I'm not going to be able to move forever.
Right.
But you know, you look at, you know, Tempest and Apex movement. You know, these gyms. They're great examples of what you can do with the sport. I have a buddy actually in China. His name is Kyle Shapiro. Love you, bud. He's in China, and he moved to Shanghai from Canada on a whim to become a monk, and ended up following through. But then I don't remember the whole story exactly, so I don't want to get it wrong. But he somehow ended up moving back to Canada, coming back for stunt jobs, saving up a bunch of money, and he opened up his own gym.
No way.
Yeah, so now he has his own gym in Shanghai. I mean, it's pretty awesome now. Like, you know, some of the Red Bull athletes from China go there to train, and they go after big events and stuff. So he's living his dream by having a gym to train at all the time, having a source of income, and being able to train with these amazing athletes.
Yeah.
And Tempest does the same thing. You know, Apex does the same thing. They have these incredible gyms, but they also have a business through it. So I probably would say my ultimate goal is to somehow, you know, create a gym for movement. Join All Movement is actually a great example. It's not. I wouldn't want to necessarily make it just about free running. You know, I love movement, all of it.
Yeah.
Like, so whether you're dancing, whether you're doing yoga, whether any form of movement, that would be great. So to create a gym that can encompass all of those things. I mean, it'd have to be pretty big, but you know, you can pick which categories, I guess, you would want, or which disciplines, whatever you want to call it, and being able to give back to the community in that way.
Absolutely. That's also a big goal I have. Is I don't know if you've seen it recently. They're doing public kind of like parkour.
Yeah,
parks
I
now,
did.
facilities.
I signed the petition and I shared it.
Yeah, that's where. Yeah, it was you that I saw. I'm like, man, I love it. That's something I've always wanted to do. And then now someone did it already, you know.
Yep.
But it just goes to show that there's people out there who really want to give back to the community. And I feel parkour, and it's just like you said, it's not to run away from the cops. It's not, you know, for all these other negative reasons, to be better than anyone else. It's to really build a discipline in yourself, and one of the disciplines is body, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the other one is, my next question is, what do you think parkour has been able to do for your mind?
Oh man, that's a really good question, because I think about it often. Actually, it's you know, there's this big argument like people do parkour and it helps your mind, and you know, it helps you in life. There's this kind of skewed, I think, way of thinking in the community. People think that if you just train parkour, that you're eventually going to have a successful life.
Right.
And I don't necessarily think that's completely true. Kai Willis actually mentioned this in one of his videos. You know, parkour isn't. Let's face it. Parkour isn't going to help you pay that ticket.
Yeah.
You know, parkour isn't going to help you pay the rent at the end of the day. But what it will do will give you a quality of not giving up. You know, of always being consistent. And a lot of these parkour athletes, they try over and over and over again. Well, that same quality can be used in your life. You know. Whether you don't get the interview or don't get the job, you're still going to keep applying for something that you do enjoy. Or you know, whether you're in school and you know you got a bad grade, you still have that motivation inside to want to do better. There's always that fuel to want to keep being better than yourself. I think that quality is something that you learn from from training your mind in parkour, or even the discipline really of just being able to stick to something over and over again,
Yeah.
and not getting discouraged whether how many times you fail,
Absolutely.
and getting back up. I think that's a great quality that helps with your mind through parkour.
Is there like maybe a very recent or in the last 4 years of you training in parkour that there was like a struggle or something you had to overcome that maybe if parkour wasn't in your life, or maybe there's a certain area in your life that you really improved on that helped you through this certain struggle or adversity?
I mean, that's a pretty tough question, but I'd have to say honestly, like, I guess my direction in life, professionally, you come to a point, I started training when I was 22, as you mentioned. You come to a point in life where you hit a crossroad and you're like, okay, do I keep training and try and become an athlete, or do I try and somehow find a way to, find a job, whether it's a car salesman or, whatever it is, you have to find a source of a career, that's going to last. And I realized, if you really want to, you can do both.
Yeah.
You really can do both. So I came to the decision where, I'm not just going to entirely focus on training, even though I love it. It is a huge part of my life, and that's why I'm also coaching it. But I'm going to go back to school to become a physical therapist. Okay. So that eventually I can save up enough money, open up my own gym, and then start helping with rehab for parkour athletes. So it's the best of both worlds. But it took a while to determine that, and it finally came to that point where I was like, all right, I got to make a decision, and the decision was made. So I think that was probably the hardest thing that I've had to do. But if it wasn't for parkour, if it wasn't for my mindset, I probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's funny that when it comes to what kind of struggles we go through, it's usually the internal battle that's more tougher than a lot of the external stuff that's going on. And
absolutely.
You said might as well do both. Go to school, get that education in physical therapy, but also continue to do your passion, which is training parkour. There's this guy, Harv Eker, in his book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. He says always think both. Always think about doing both. There's some way you can combine the two, whether it's your career, your work, and then your passion. And usually they're the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You combine them, and I'm sure this is a lot of people's thoughts or concerns or worries. You've been training parkour for some time now, however many years, or whatever it is, and any other passion, maybe it's business or going to school, whatever it is. And then you have something else on the side that you really love to do, but you're not sure which one should I do. I think this is a great example of find a way to combine the two, or find a way to really, if you can't combine them at all, they need to have the complete different worlds. Continue to do your passion, and then also find that career and whatever it is. But the idea of why not both is incredible. I think it's incredible. Another question I want to ask is, who was Jeff in elementary, middle school, and high school?
Oh man. If I'm gonna be honest, I was like, I had no direction, man. I did as pretty much most kids do, I would say, is go outside and play with friends, get dirty. I went through a phase like after middle school where I started getting heavy into video games. But before that, man, I was really just outside. I didn't have a TV growing up in my room. I didn't really have a computer, so a lot of the times I just spent. I lived in Texas for a while, and out there, it's very. Out here in the city, it's a little bit harder to play outside, but out there, it's very common. It's like what you would see in the movies. You go outside with friends. You go to some random field. You go paintballing. You build haystacks. I don't know, man. You jump off things. You push kids around. Like you just have fun as a kid. You kind of enjoy yourself. As I started getting older, I got heavily into video games. Actually, to the point where I wanted to compete in them, and it kind of like directed my life in a certain direction, which actually led me to parkour. Funny enough. That's funny. I competed in Call of Duty with some friends at some like MLG tournaments and stuff, and it was kind of funny, and I got really involved in it. But that made me realize that at that time in my life that I kind of wanted that to be my entire life. Like I also wanted to make it my career somehow, not just be a professional video game. So I ended up getting a job as a quality assurance tester for Activision.
No way.
Yeah, actually my first job was THQ, and then it was Activision, and then it was Neversoft, and then it was all these game publishers and developers. And I spent about a year at each different location. But after a while, I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do, as some people go through in their life. And I got a job after those couple of years as a quality assurance tester for Blu-rays and DVDs, and that was my last job actually. And I stuck there for a while because it gave me great insurance. Okay. It was really good pay. It was less than 3 miles from my house, so I could pretty much walk there if I wanted to. Yeah. So some people, I've heard this before. Some people get stuck at a job that they don't like but pays well. And it's not necessarily what I wanted to do. I was pulling my hair out. I love the people there, love the staff. They're great, but the actual work wasn't making me happy. Yeah. And after a while, I couldn't take it anymore. About a year in, that's when my roommate showed me that video, and then it kind of like started switching everything around and started getting the gears turning. I realized that this is absolutely what I don't want to do. Yeah. This is what I want to do. So I'm going to continue working here while I try and find a job. To this day, I'm still trying to get a job at Tempest, and that's also why I train so hard, because it would be great to have both. I would want to be able to coach gymnastics and teach free running and still go to school at the same time. Like, if there's a lot on my plate, then that's fine. But that's kind of where it led up to. I was just a little kid who didn't know anything, and then started getting into video games. And then from video games, I found parkour, and parkour, now I'm here.
That's funny, man. That's such a good story, because you'll find that it's kind of same for me. I like writing, but the last time I wrote anything was when I was 15 years old. And before that, I used to write all my short stories. I used to read a lot of Harry Potter, so I was really interested in a lot of the fantasy world as well. But then I stopped writing when I was 15, and over time I got introduced to a lot of different people, books that I started reading, and then it kind of comes full circle, where it was like always meant to be like whatever it was that you wanted to do when you were younger, it kind of comes full circle. I mean, I wanted to be a scientist and all these other things. And I wrote a blog about it that should be coming out when the website launches, but it's interesting. Well, besides wanting to be a ninja, right, and go, being in, I guess, software development or in video games in that world, and then now wanting to be a physical therapist. What other things have you thought about? I guess aspiring to. As far as career.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it was career-based, but something I have been wanting to do, maybe you've seen it before too, is I kind of want to grow. I have a little thing on the side called Full Stride, and back when I first started training parkour, it was just about giving back to the community and looking for spots to train at, and I would go and log these spots on Instagram, and through that, I'm going to go off on a little tangent. Through that, I found this weird community that, was constantly looking for places to train. And because of that, this guy from Germany hit me up. He said, "Hey, I'm coming out to LA. I would love to train with you at all these spots." And I said, "Sure, man, let's do it." And it wasn't just him. It was a bunch of other people constantly doing this. People from Norway, people from China, people from Japan, people from just everywhere, man. It was crazy. I was kind of baffled by it. But this guy from Germany, his name is Nico Schneider, he actually ended up becoming really close friends of mine. And because of that, he ended up flying me out to Germany because of the time that he had while he was here. And it was all because of this thing that I started called Full Stride. Back then it was called SoCal BK Spots, but now it's Full Stride. So, it is kind of along, parkour in the community, but what I really want to do is create these fitness groups, or, a lot of people do them, but a lot of them are just, they're for pay, but I want to do a donation-based thing around the city where if someone wants to learn how to be active, if someone's overweight, or if someone's just having trouble being physically active, they can come to these things and learn how to move physically and, the basics of human movement, and try and get these things going back again. I've slowed down since I've started coaching, but that's something I have on the side that hopefully can turn into more, along with a company. That's something.
Dude, that's powerful. That is powerful. See, that's the stuff that I need people, that I love to learn about. There's these things on the side. Like, we kind of put it off like, oh, there's this thing that I have on the side. There's this thing that I'm doing. But that's like when we smile about it. We have that smirk when we mention it or whatever it is. Full Stride, I've seen it. Yeah. I have seen you log in, doing a lot of those logs of where different spots are.
Yeah, exactly.
Full Stride's on Instagram?
It's on Instagram.
How do you spell that? So
FULLSTRYDE.
Full Stride, guys. Go ahead and follow that on Instagram. It's pretty powerful. Are you on Twitter or anything else?
No, but I'm on Facebook and Instagram, so
Facebook,
I
Jeff
should
Jaimes.
get Twitter too.
Yeah, Twitter I've been using a lot lately. But another thing, you mentioned your parents, your dad will take you up to Griffith Park a lot, do that. What are your parents like? What are they like that you can say that is in you?
Definitely say my mom. My mom's like the nicest person on the planet. I love her to death. She's got a big heart. You know, she's very altruistic.
No, really?
Yeah. So she just loves to help people. Sometimes almost that it hurts her. You know, like she goes out of the way so much that it's not necessarily good for her. But that's something I think a quality I've taken in my life, and probably why I'm a coach. You know, I love kids. I love to help people. So that I've probably taken from my mother. My dad's an interesting fella. He knows it. I love you, Dad, but you know, we butt heads, you know, as some father and sons do. But at the end of the day, we both love each other, and he means well, so I understand that. I probably, you know, like him taking me up hiking was probably a big influence. We actually have a family in Vegas, and every time we would go out there for Thanksgiving or Christmas and eat tamales and stuff, the day after we'd go up to Red Rocks and we'd go and climb, you know, an all-day climb family thing, and that became, you know, kind of like a staple for me of Vegas. Like I've never actually, to this day, I'm 26. I haven't partied in Vegas.
No.
Yeah, man. Like I go out there, I visit family, I go climb rocks, and then I go eat some tamales and tortillas, man. Like,
hey, everyone, you know. To each their own.
So I think that, you know, my dad has probably helped me stay away from the party side because of how he raised me. I would say, you know, I never really was into going to bars and doing things like that. My idea of a good Friday night was going out to the beach and exploring or doing something like that or climbing something. That is probably something I've taken from him because that was his life. I mean, some people, they'll see their parents go out or they have drinks with friends and stuff. My dad never really did that. He'd come home, he'd read his books, you know, he'd hang out with family. So maybe why I'm more of a family-oriented person.
Yeah, same here. It's funny you say your father, he read books. What career is he in?
He's in real estate. He's a real estate broker.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So he turns. I actually, you know, to be honest, I don't know exactly what he does. I know he invests in properties. I know he invests in certain things, but I literally see him talk on the phone all day and all night, and then he just gets off. But he's working. I know he's working. It's just not my style of work. You know, it's not something I particularly enjoy. But he's opened up a real estate company. You know, we had a pretty big hit in the economy, and he had to close it down. But he reopened another one, and he's got agents there, and you know, he's doing his thing, and he's constantly, you know, reading books like from Dale Carnegie, and Anthony Robbins, and you know, very, very self-help books. You know, self-improvement, ways to, you know, create investments and things like that.
That's
so
powerful.
he's constantly reading things like that, and he's always telling me to do it, and I'm just like, all right, Dad, I'll get to it. And, you know, eventually, got a lot on my plate right now, but he means well, so I understand. So
yeah, man, personal development and self-help is something I was introduced to when I was 19 years old. And the first book I ever read was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's definitely a book that I'm sure your father has read already. The first time I read it, though, I had a headache. Like self-help, that was new to me. I had no idea what was going on. I read books like fiction novels and all these things, and then I read this thing telling me about how the way I think can produce things in real life and all this other stuff. I had a headache. I read it the second time around. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with personal development. Then I started reading books like Outwitting the Devil, Secret of the Millionaire Mind, Start with Why, 10X Rule. All these books that I just read all the time. And that's interesting that I'm sure when your dad says, hey, he's told you to pick up, like, to read a book or something.
Absolutely, yeah.
And reading was never something that I even did. When I started reading was when I was 17, reading fiction books, all these things. When I was younger, I read Harry Potter, but that was it. It was only Harry Potter. And then when I was 19, I started reading a lot more books. Over the last 4 years of personal development, I've read 40 books, and that's something to be impressed by. But because I know people who read a book a week, you know, for personal development. You know, that's 52 books in a year. It's insane, really.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
But if there was, what kind of book names has your father recommended to you?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I can't remember them, to be
Yeah, they're
honest.
hard to remember.
It's not that they're hard to remember. He just tells them to me, and they kind of go in one way after the other. I'm just like, I'll get to it, Dad. I know he loves Dale Carnegie. That's the only name that I can really say for sure. So whatever book that he's
How to
reading
Win
now,
Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
maybe something. No,
Yeah.
that doesn't sound familiar. But it's probably one of those, man. To be honest, like I don't spend too much time paying attention to what he's reading.
Yeah.
But it's probably best that I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely you got to get used to it, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like anything else. You read a book and then you get better and then you get better. Me, what I'm trying to do is how can I read faster so I can get on to the next book? Because I got so many books I'm looking to read. There was nothing I had in mind. Oh, you said you were in Texas for a while.
Yeah.
Was it you and your family? You and
It
your
was
parents?
my mother and my sister.
Okay, I was born in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I came here to California with my parents. I was 4 years old. My brother was 3. So we lived all over Southern California from 4 to 8 years old.
Okay.
And since I was 9, I lived in Hollywood. But so you moved to Texas around what age was that?
I want to say I was like 12 or 13.
Okay, and you were there for how long?
About 3 years.
Okay, well, why the move? Was there?
My mom went out there for work.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And then the experience in Texas. What part of Texas were you?
I lived in Austin, Round Rock, to be
Okay.
precise. Yeah. Amazing place, man. I love that state. The state's great. Super nice people. Definitely a change of pace. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
sure.
a little bit slower out there, but you know, the people are really genuine. I can't say that enough. They're really good-hearted people out there. Even the older generation, you can learn a lot from those guys out there. You know, being a gentleman.
Yeah.
That southerly gentleman thing, you know, not enough. I can't say enough about stuff like that. So that's something I've taken into my life. You know, the way you treat just people in general. It's something my dad always says too. He's like, go out and make people smile. Like, not for yourself, but for them.
I like
you
that.
know? And that's something that you as a human, I feel like, should kind of hold yourself up to. You know, be
Yeah.
a good person and things like that. And I feel like Texas is a lot like that.
Yeah.
You know, people just want to be good. That's nice.
When was the last time you were back in Texas?
Since I left, man, I've been trying to go back out there. I send Facebook messages like
Yeah.
every year to my friends. I'm like, this is gonna be the year, and they're like, all right, bud. We've heard that the last 3 or 4 years since you've left, or
Same
longer
way you keep
now,
telling your
to be
dad
honest.
You're gonna read the books.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll get to it, Dad. I'll get to it, but it's something that I do really want to do. I mean, I saved up money, but I think actually that money is going to go towards Germany next year
Okay.
to hang out with my buddy Nico. So we'll see. I'll eventually make it out there. There's something someone told me too. It's like I can't remember it correctly, but it's like delayed gratification.
Yeah.
The longer you wait, the more gratifying it is.
Yeah,
So
that's kind of true.
hopefully that applies to Texas. I miss you guys. Love you. All right. So hopefully I'll be back there soon. But yeah,
Cool.
it's been a while.
Last couple of questions. There's things I just picked up randomly in my eye. I know he's got these scars right here. Is that
Yeah.
from training?
That's from downhill skating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was glass on the floor. I did a really big toe turn. As some of you guys know, you can hit little tiny rocks and skateboards, and it'll send you flying. Completely stopped my momentum. Went belly first, diving down this big hill, and landed on my arm. Glass cut through it. Straight through. Yeah. Probably in hindsight, I probably should have got stitched up, but now it just looks like a tiger attacked me.
Yeah,
So
that's the better story.
yeah, whenever the students ask me, I'm like, I got in a fight with a bear, 2 of them, while wrestling a tiger.
Falling down the hill.
Falling down the hill. I just kind of elaborate it and make it more every time. It's kind of funny.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Your most recent adventure that I saw was the one where it was like you got to the place and then it was closed or something. It was dark, or you needed to do something.
Oh man,
and it
okay.
didn't work out.
Yeah. Technically it was closed, but as most free runners know, that doesn't stop us.
Right.
My brother, I have an older brother, I'm getting pretty close to lately too, and he's been asking me to, help him go hiking and lose some weight and stuff. And I'm like, dude, absolutely. Like, I'm a personal trainer, I coach, I do all these things. I would love to help out my brother, like, of course. So he had this great idea. I was like, well, I've been looking at this mountain. It's called Mount Lukens. It's a 4-mile hike. And he's like, dude, let's do it tonight. And my brother's a survival guy. He's got a bunch of survival gear in his back garage. And so I'm like, all right, well, let's use your backpack. I got my backpack. I've looked at the pictures from Mount Lukens, and it rests up at 5,200 feet, which isn't like very high, but for Los Angeles, I think it's like the second highest point you can find. And it's so high if the conditions are correct, you sit above the clouds. And I actually got to wake up above the clouds that morning. It was amazing. It was probably one of the coolest climbs I've done this year. But it ended up being not the best event. Well, I wouldn't say the best adventure. It just didn't end up going as planned. First we get there, it's dark. I've never been there before. We don't have a correct GPS. I'm just using my phone through Google Maps. So I printed out some pages just to have some ideas if we needed to follow the route. It was supposed to be a 4-mile hike. I only brought 2 liters of water with me because I didn't think it would take us that long. I didn't bring enough food. I brought some granola bars and stuff that I ended up eating right as we got up there because I was already hungry. So probably in hindsight shouldn't have done that. We should have waited a little bit. My brother was having a hard time with the hike, and we ended up taking another route that was supposed to lead us to a shortcut, but in the dark you can't really see everything correctly, so we missed one of the trails that would shorten the hike. Instead, it ended up extending the hike by about 2 miles. So instead of what ended up becoming a 4-mile or 8-mile round trip hike, we were going to camp out overnight. It ended up becoming like a 12-mile hike.
Jeez.
So we didn't end up making it to the top. We were about a mile from the peak. And my brother's like, hey man, I just can't go anymore. And I was like, no, that's okay, dude. Like, I'd rather you be safe. It ended up it also rained that night, so we were wet a little bit. And all the dew from the plants and the grass got our shoes wet. He was moving kind of fast, so he got really sweaty and got really cold. So we were worried about hypothermia. I pull out all my gear once we make it to our campsite or our base, is what we called it. And I pop out my tent and I realize whoever used it last didn't put the poles back in.
It sucks so bad.
So I'm like, oh man, like, all right, well, I'll make do. I have a tripod. I got a pretty tall tripod. So I throw the tripod inside the tent, I crank it up. It's about resting this high up. So it's just enough to get us in there and sleep. Not to mention we were cold. We had to start a fire, but it just rained, so all the wood was wet.
Right.
And we managed to somehow, I don't know, thank God actually for the drought, that the wood happens to be as dry as it is, because my brother bought 2 emergency starter logs, and through those we ended up drying a bunch of sticks, like kindling sticks. And we laid them over and we got that going. And from that we got our big logs to put over the kindling sticks, and we dried the big logs out. And finally, when the big logs dried out, we burnt those up. We got other big logs to dry those out.
Be resourceful.
And it ended up taking us like a good hour to get a good fire going, but we did end up getting it going, and we ended up drying off and drying all our clothes up. They kind of were like cardboarded though, like when you dry them over fire. So it wasn't the best and planned of trip. We were pretty hungry by the time we woke up. We didn't have a lot of water. We did it in the dark. We were wet. But point is, I learned something from it. Like I learned to wear better clothing, pay attention to the conditions, do all these things a little bit better. And it's something that got him going. Like he's like, hey, I'm gonna make this a hobby now. And I'm like, dude, anything that's gonna get you outside and moving, that's a good hobby. Like whether it's just power walking, whether it's doing yoga. I can't say this enough about movement. It just, as long as you move your body, it's good for the soul. And so it's something that we've been doing. But that was a crazy adventure, and we're gonna go back and we're gonna go a little bit more prepared, probably when it's not raining. But we want the conditions to be the same, because like I said, we woke up above the clouds,
that's amazing. And
I didn't get to take good pictures because the vantage we had wasn't very great. I got some, and I'll be posting them later, but they weren't the greatest. So I want to go back up there and actually get. You can see LA from a distance, and it looks like a tiny city, man. It's like ridiculously small. You can see the Burbank Hills. You can just see everything. You can see the ocean from there, and it's incredible. So I can't wait to go and do that again. The next one we have after that is probably Mount Wilson. Happens to have, I think it sits at 5,700 feet. So it's, I think, the highest peak in San Gabriel Mountains, or around this area, like in the city of Los Angeles. And it has an observatory at the top and a campsite, so you can.
An observatory, really?
Yeah, it's I think it's called Mount Wilson. I don't remember exactly, but I just know there's an observatory up there, so it'd be fun to go and check it out. And it's a 12-mile hike, so we're already kind of prepared for it from the last trip. So it's something that we'll start in the day, like 6 a.m., hike up there, set up camp, and then hike back down the next day. That's probably the next one on the list after we go and conquer Mount Lukens again.
That's good. I'm glad you told me about the observatory. I know someone who really loves observatories. Like there's one in New York at the One World Trade Center, the building where there are Twin Towers. There's an observatory at the top.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then so you got the Griffith Park Observatory, of course. And this one, is that only a hike, or could it be a drive also?
I think it's also a drive. I think there's a route, but you have, if I'm not mistaken, I think you have to go around the San Gabriel Mountain, so like towards Wrightwood, right, and then you go all the way around towards the Mountain High, and then I think there's a path that leads you up the opposite side. I think it's like a 2-hour drive, or like an hour and a half drive, but you can probably knock it out in like the same amount of time if you hike at an efficient pace. Like you have to be in pretty good shape to be able to hike that fast. But I think there's a route, if I'm not mistaken. The same thing for the towers we were going up to. It's actually the radio tower up in the Verdugo Mountains. That's Mount Lukens. If like you ever see those towers up by that hill, that's where you're trying to hike up to the very peak. So there's another way I think you can drive up there, but it's also supposed to take about 2 hours. You go through, I think, Latini Canyon all the way around.
I see.
So yeah, I think there's another route.
Okay, that's a good piece of information, because I know people who love observatories and looking at the stars, or just anything that involves a high peak like you're talking about. That's incredible. Last two things here. What's your ethnicity? Like where are your parents from?
Both my parents are from Mexico.
What part of Mexico?
My dad, I don't remember where my mom's from. My dad is from a little town outside Acapulco, like in the mountains area. It's not even a town, man. It's like this. It's in the mountains. Like he was born in the mountains, pretty much.
Dude, that's sick.
Yeah, he tells me about it all the time. Like, because I went to Mexico earlier this year on a cruise with the family, and I got to see a little bit of the other side of Mexico, not the Mexico that I'm used to, which is just Ensenada, TJ, and just across the border. I haven't been that far deep into Mexico, so while he was there, he's telling me, how many miles he would have to hike just to get to school.
Dude,
and it was like a 3-mile hike for him. And it's just pretty crazy, like to hear where he came from and stuff. So I can't. One day I'm gonna go back out there. I've been trying to work on my Spanish a little more.
Okay.
It's there, but it's not as fluent as I would like it to be.
Same here, bro.
Yeah, so I've been trying to work on it, so that way when I go out there, I can hold my. I mean, like I held my own, and they treated me like a local when I was out in Mexico recently, but I wanted better.
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting, man, because you're very into hiking. Your father took you to Griffith Park a lot, you said, but he was also born in the mountains.
Yeah.
It's kind of like these two things go hand in hand. The way he wanted to raise you is kind of the way he was brought up, almost.
Yeah, I never looked at it that way. I guess you're right. Yeah.
You can. It's funny. I like to look for little sign. Whether it's a big deal or not, I want to make it a big deal, because these things will say a lot about who you are and your life and your story. Last thing is authenticity. What does it mean to be authentic? You mentioned that people in Texas are very genuine. You really like good-hearted people. What does it mean to you to be authentic?
We hear it a lot in school. Be yourself. And a lot of it is just don't let to me it's don't let the outside pressures of the world forge you into something you're not. Make up your own mind on what you think is right and wrong, what it means to treat someone well, how to talk to those people. I think that it's in itself is being authentic to yourself and to the world. Be someone who you feel like you should be, not necessarily who people want you to be.
Right.
I mean, we're influenced by our parents, we're influenced by our friends, the media, social media now. And I take things that I think are good, and I try and put those into practice, and I think to me that is being authentic.
I like that. That's really good. There's this like a stack of papers on there I have. that a friend of me borrowed. It talks about what it is to be authentic. I'm still reading through it, and I want to make sure I get the whole gist of authenticity down to the point of where it's like you're completely you, no matter who you're around, no matter what you're doing, what you're saying. It's really you, and that's what I feel I really gotten out of this talk today. Guys, Jeff Jaimes, go ahead and follow him on Facebook. He's on Instagram. And then, of course, follow Full Stride. It's FULLSTRYDE, Full Stride. You know me, Jonathan Greenwood. This is, if you don't know, now you know, with Jeff Jaimes. Follow me on Twitter, J Greenwood Life, as well as Instagram, Jonathan Greenwood Life. Everyone has a story, guys. Everyone wants to be heard. You just have to be the ear. So go ahead and follow my channel as well, Jonathan Greenwood Life, and go ahead and comment. I'm going to leave some links at the bottom, and have a great day. It was great seeing you, brother.
Thank you
so much.
Appreciate it.